TNA Wrestling is coming back. Last night at Bound for Glory, Impact Wrestling announced and confirmed they would be rebranding back to Total Nonstop Action Wrestling in January of next year. Details on that, plus the Devil is also back on AEW Collision last night on TNT. Kazuchika Okada, his AEW return match has been confirmed for this coming week's episode of AEW Dynamite. Malachi Black and the House of Black are also back, appearing last night on AEW Collision in multiple segments. It wasn't the only return though. Jon Moxley is also back, appearing last night on Collision. Jeff Jarrett defeats Eddie Kingston in a Memphis Street fight to earn Jay Lethal a shot at the Ring of Honor World Championship. Sonny Kiss is in Impact Wrestling, appearing at Bound for Glory last night. Chris Statlander retains the TBS Championship at Battle of the Belts. Tyson Fury gives an update on his WWE future. Adam Copeland and Ricky Starks had a heated exchange on Collision last week. We've got some backstage details on that. Plus, Sammy Callahan reportedly was backstage at AEW Collision last night, and The Undertaker is launching a podcast. We've got all the details. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about the return of Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Yes, TNA is returning. Impact Wrestling is rebranding back to their former name. A big announcement was made during Saturday night's Impact Wrestling pay-per-view Bound for Glory. Impact Wrestling will be going back to its original Total Nonstop Action TNA name. The rebranding will begin and start on the January 13, 2024 pay-per-view that is known as Hard to Kill. Now, there was a video announcement that aired at the end of Bound for Glory. It featured several present and past names, including Eric Young, Frankie Kazarian, Josh Alexander, Giselle Shaw, Knockouts World Champion Trinity, Impact World Champion Alex Shelley, 10-time Impact X Division Champion Chris Sabin, and the Impact World Tag Team Champions Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Of course, Impact now going back to their former name. If you're not really familiar, a bit of a history lesson when it comes to the wording and the name of TNA, Total Nonstop Action. In the promotion's first 2 years, it was known as NWA, Total Nonstop Action. It was in 2004 that it was dropped. The NWA part was simply known as TNA. That name would last until 2017 when the company officially rebranded as Impact Wrestling, though that same year it was also known as Global Force Wrestling, GFW, for a short period of time, before rebranding back to Impact Wrestling. That's just the short history of the company. It's worth noting that while fans will have to wait until next year for the official rebranding, TNA t-shirts are already available for purchase. Besides the TNA announcement, Bound for Glory also featured New Japan star and IWGP US Champion Will Ospreay in action. He defeated Mike Bailey. There was a surprise appearance we'll get into in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match. The winner of that match was Jordan Grace. You saw Alex Shelley retain the Impact World Championship against Josh Alexander. Trinity defeated Mickie James to retain the Knockouts World Championship as well. Now, we do actually have a press release from Impact Wrestling, soon to be Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, just to confirm some finer details about this. So they say, quote, TNA returns on January 13, 2024 at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view from the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. Anthem Sports and Entertainment, a global multi-platform media company, announced today that its professional wrestling company, Impact Wrestling, is returning to its iconic Total Nonstop Action TNA Wrestling name at Hard to Kill at its first pay-per-view event of 2024, which will originate for the first time ever from the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. The announcement was made Saturday night at the end of the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, which aired live around the world in front of a standing room-only crowd in Chicago. TNA will launch 2024 with Hard to Kill on Saturday, January 13, with a second night of action-packed professional wrestling, the Snake Eyes Extravaganza Show at the Palm on Sunday, January 14. The Snake Eyes Extravaganza Show will be taped to air on the company's flagship TV show, Impact, airing every Thursday night on Access TV at 8 p.m. Eastern. Quote, we still hear the TNA chants wherever he goes, said Impact Wrestling President Scott D'Amore. Fans have longed for TNA Wrestling, so that's what we're bringing back in 2024. TNA Wrestling, we are back. Now, company officials confirm that the new year will launch a new look TNA Wrestling that runs from the entrance ramp to turnbuckles in the ring to larger, more prestigious venues and much, much more. Further details on the TNA Wrestling return will be revealed on the Tuesday, October 24, when D'Amore sits down for an exclusive interview with Tom Hannafin that will air live on Impact's Facebook page starting at 12 noon Eastern. The Q&A will include questions from worldwide pro wrestling media as well. TNA Wrestling launched in the summer of 2002 and has long been known as the most innovative professional wrestling company in the world. TNA is known for its high-risk, action-packed X Division matches that have run with one simple motto: it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits. Stars of the X Division have included Chris Sabin with a record 10 title reigns, AJ Styles, the first ever champion, along with Jay Lethal, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, P.T. Williams, Frankie Kazarian, Trey Miguel, among others. TNA is also the home for the prestigious Knockouts division, widely regarded as the best women's division in all of professional wrestling. The Knockouts division features Trinity, Deonna Purrazzo, Mickie James, Jordan Grace, Giselle Shaw, Maisha Slamovich, Kylan King, Jessica, and Courtney Rush, among others. Legendary past Knockouts include Gail King, Awesome Kong, The Beautiful People, Taya Valkyrie, ODB, Tara, Tracy Brooks, and so many others. Now, for some backstage details about this and some reasons behind Impact deciding, or really Anthem deciding they wanted to convert Impact back into TNA, while the announcement to return to TNA came out of nowhere for those watching, per PW Insider, it wasn't a decision that was made overnight in the slightest. PW Insider notes that at one point the announcement was slated to be made back at Slammiversary earlier this year, before eventually being pushed back to Bound for Glory last night. The final decision to rebrand back to TNA was said to be locked in about 2 to 3 weeks ago. As for the reasons behind the switch, PW Insider notes there are multiple. One is that the return to TNA would unite the fragmented history of the promotion, which has been known as TNA, Global Force Wrestling, and Impact Wrestling over the years. So they want to kind of bring that all together and just be called TNA once again. Another factor in the change is that a number of the company's international partners preferred the TNA name, and some were at times still using it internally. So despite the fact they were called Impact Wrestling, a lot of the international partners still refer to them as Total Nonstop Action, still refer to them as TNA. Therefore, it's a name that their partners internationally preferred. The company was also said to have quietly polled long-term fans of the promotion earlier this year, with many of them stating that they actually preferred the old TNA name as opposed to the Impact Wrestling name. The plan is for Impact Wrestling to close out the rest of the year and then transition over to the TNA name in January at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. The company's TV series will once again be known as TNA Impact Wrestling, with new TNA championships being rolled out, with the current champions using those belts instead of the current Impact titles. The new titles have been crafted and have been produced, but they won't likely be used until January. So all of those plans are now firmly in place. But a lot of people have been asking, given the fact that we're going back to TNA Wrestling, given the fact that Total Nonstop Action is coming back, are we going to see the six-sided ring? Is the six-sided ring going to be returning? Well, of course, a staple of the early days of TNA was the aforementioned six-sided ring, which set the company apart from WWE and other companies using the standard four-sided ring at the time. With TNA returning, fans were speculating about the six-sided ring potentially returning, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Per PW Insider, there are zero plans to return to the old six-sided ring amid the return to TNA. The idea reportedly wasn't even discussed, as just about every talent still with the company who worked the old six-sided ring found the four-sided ring easier on their bodies. It's been widely reported and widely put out there over time that many people really didn't enjoy the six-sided ring. It didn't have as much give to it as the traditional four-sided ring. And many people found it, again, to be very, very, very uncomfortable and very, very bad on their long-term health. Therefore, it wasn't even really up for discussion. So it doesn't look like, for now anyway, the six-sided ring is indeed returning. Now, according to Fightful Select as well, one of the reasons given regarding the TNA name change, they were told was for one, general buzz, but also to unite the history of the company, similar to what PW Insider was reporting. Obviously, the company being known as TNA, NWA, TNA, Impact, and GFW. They've also been told that a lot of planning actually went into this, and actually it was considered as far back as the summer, but it kept getting pushed back, similarly to what PW Insider was reporting as well. There will be a complete presentation shift in program, from venues to production to logos and to look as well. Impact reportedly was very happy with the buzz that Impact 1000 received and the nostalgia associated with it, which didn't hurt matters too. And actually quite interesting, we covered this back at the time, way back when in 2020, there were extended plans for TNA to be a separate entity back in 2020 before the COVID pandemic slowed that down. If you recall correctly, there was an event called TNA There's No Place Like Home that was planned to be taking place in 2020. Of course, it didn't happen because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and there were rumors at the time There could be kind of a soft brand split in Impact at the time, having Impact and TNA. Of course, that isn't going to be the case moving forward, but certainly this wasn't a decision that was made overnight. So what are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts about TNA coming back, Impact Wrestling being rebranded as Total Nonstop Action? Is it a good thing? Will it make a difference? They say they're going to run some larger and more prestigious arenas. What do you think that will look like? Let me know your thoughts on all of it in the comments section below. Now, the Devil is back on AEW television, this time on AEW Collision, but we still don't know who it is. The Devil was back on the October 21st episode of AEW Collision, appearing on the video screen after the Guns, Austin and Colton Gunn, defeated the Outrunners, Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd. Jay White was celebrating with the Guns in the ring when the lights went out and the Devil appeared on the screen. When the lights came back on, White and the Guns looked around, seemingly expecting the Devil to attack. The Devil persona, of course, has been used by MJF in the past, but he claims he was not the Devil who led the attack on Jay White on the September 27 episode of AEW Dynamite. MJF stated that his mask was stolen and someone else was behind the attack. Four men attacked White at the end of Dynamite on September 27 with the person in the Devil mask stepping into the camera after White had been laid out. Of course, Jay White set to challenge MJF for the AEW World Championship at Full Gear. Amid this cameo, though, who do you think it is? Have we got any more clues as to who the mystery person is behind the mask? Is the person who is eventually going to be revealed as the Devil? Was that even them last night? Let me know your thoughts and predictions about that as well. Kazuchika Okada is coming back to AEW TV as soon as this Wednesday on Dynamite. At last night's Battle of the Bouts 8, Orange Cassidy was set to put his AEW International Championship on the line against John Silver. While he was able to beat Silver to retain his title, a pre-match confrontation with Jon Moxley seemed to have stuck with Orange Cassidy. Later in a backstage interview segment with Lexi Nair, Orange issued a big challenge to the Blackpool Combat Club, challenging Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli to a match this coming week's edition of Dynamite. Orange Cassidy confirmed that his tag team partner would be the returning Kazuchika Okada. The match was made official via graphics, so it looks like the Blackpool Combat Club have indeed accepted this challenge. Of course, it would be the first time that Okada and Danielson have shared the ring together since Danielson defeated Okada with a broken arm back at Forbidden Door earlier this year. Last night featured several returns on AEW Collision, one being Malachi Black and the House of Black, and they made their presence known across a variety of multiple segments. A new feud seemed to have started with an attack on Bryan Danielson after the opening match on last night's AEW Collision. After the dream match of Bryan Danielson defeating Andrade El Idolo, Danielson was in the ring when the arena lights went to black. When the lights came back on, Malachi Black appeared and delivered a vicious kick to the face of Bryan Danielson, seemingly knocking him out cold. When the lights turned off again, commentary noted that the Blackpool Combat Club seemed to have run out to support Danielson. However, when the lights came back on, Black was gone. Later in the show, the lights went out on Bullet Club Gold. It wasn't claimed by Black, however, as I mentioned, it was the Devil figure who appeared silently for only just a moment. Further along in the show, FTR was having a match against local talent when the lights went out again and reappeared Malachi Black before the lights cut out again, and when they came back on, he wasn't alone. Both Brody King and Buddy Matthews had joined Malachi Black as they began a beatdown on FTR. Then, at the end of AEW Collision, Ricky Starks and Big Bill defeated Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta before the lights cut out again. When the House of Black appeared, then too appeared FTR and notably a returning Jon Moxley, as Danielson also ran out as the show ended in pandemonium. To close Collision, the House of Black and the Tag Team Champions had started leaving up the ramp, but believing his new comrades to be following him, Ricky Starks jumped back in the ring. This led to Starks taking a lengthy swing from Claudio Castagnoli, including at least Cash Wheeler using Starks as jump rope a few times in the process. So what are your thoughts on the House of Black returning and appearing in multiple segments? Where do you think this one is going? Are we going to get a BCC versus House of Black feud in the future? But also, you've still got Orange Cassidy feuding with Jon Moxley possibly for the International Championship. Where do you think this one is heading? Now, as I mentioned, Jon Moxley, he is back, appearing last night on AEW Collision 2. Ricky Starks continued his feud with Bryan Danielson's Blackpool Combat Club. Last night, Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta stepped into the spotlight to challenge Ricky Starks and Big Bill for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The match was the first title defense for the champions, who won the titles on the October 7 edition of Collision in a bout against FTR that lasted less than 5 minutes. Needless to say, last night's bout was considerably longer and far more competitive. Starks and Big Bill made frequent tags as they isolated Yuta, not allowing to tag tag for a lengthy period of time to begin the match. By the time Yuta made it to his corner to make a tag, Claudio Castagnoli was nowhere to be found as Starks had already attacked him. Finally, a fresh Castagnoli was tagged in and immediately gained the advantage in the match, even walking the top rope for delivering a move to Starks reminiscent of Ricky Starks himself. However, when Yuta tagged in moments later, the team lost control of the bout until Claudio returned to the match and began his swinging maneuver. With Yuta about to move off the top rope, the House of Black made their third appearance of the evening, as I mentioned, this time effectively assisting Starks and Big Bill to secure the victory. With Starks and Big Bill watching, the House of Black attacked and defeated Yuta until Bryan Danielson and FTR came up to even the battle. Finally, Jon Moxley made his return and came into the ring to fight off the House of Black, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. As he was leaving the ring, Moxley attacked Orange Cassidy, who was making his way to the ring for a match to open the Battle of the Bouts special. So certainly a lot of moving parts there when it comes to Moxley, the BCC, Orange Cassidy, the House of Black, FTR, and much more. Jeff Jarrett picked up a victory in Memphis last night over the Ring of Honor World Champion and the New Japan Strong Openweight Champion, gifting an opportunity to Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World Championship in the future. Memphis, Tennessee, of course, a city rich in wrestling history, was the site of last night's AEW Collision's Memphis Street Fight, about to have major title match implications. The match featured Ring of Honor World Champion Eddie Kingston wrestling former multiple-time World Heavyweight Champion Jeff Jarrett. A Jarrett victory would assure a title match for Jarrett's cohort Jay Lethal. The bout was the first time the two veteran wrestlers had ever shared a ring together for any kind of match, which is particularly noteworthy considering Jarrett has had a career lasting more than 35 years. In many ways, last night was a homecoming for the Tennessee native Jeff Jarrett, who, along with Jerry the King Lawler, had been one of the USWA centerpieces in the Memphis-based promotion in the early 1990s. And to further solidify the feeling of a homecoming, longtime Memphis announcer Dave Brown was on hand, as he was for Jarrett's first match, and Jarrett immediately went to the broadcast table to tell Brown to call the match fairly. The match began with Jarrett attacking Kingston on the ramp. The two quickly went to a table set up near the ramp where they used the food they found in it as weapons, reminding Brown and Tony Schiavone of the infamous 1979 Tupelo concession stand brawl. Jay Lethal, who made his presence felt at various times, delivered a diamond cutter to Kingston off the ramp and through the table. Jarrett then grabbed a garbage can to use on Kingston, who had already been busted open from the forehead. From there, Jarrett used a lead pipe and a chair to pummel Kingston's leg and knee to set him up for the figure four leg lock, which was unsuccessful and was used later for the stroke. However, another stroke followed by Jay Lethal's finisher, the Lethal Injection, and plenty of other interference by Karen Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt to clinch the victory for Jarrett and earn a future title shot for Lethal, most likely at Final Battle later on this year. So Jeff Jarrett picked up the victory there. Switching gears back to Impact Wrestling and Bound for Glory last night, as former AEW star Sonny Kiss made their presence felt at the event. Sonny Kiss was in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet at last night's Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory pay-per-view, soon to be TNA Wrestling. Joining the Gauntlet match, Sonny immediately exchanged blows with fellow ex-AEW star Kylan King after a joyful crowd reaction to Kiss's entrance. Elsewhere in intriguing entrance news, Juventud Guerrera also joined the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match, which was ongoing at the time. Eventually, it was won by Jordan Grace, who last eliminated Bully Ray. Now, a bit of an update when it comes to Juventud Guerrera as well. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select is reporting that Juventud Guerrera is working on a freelance basis, will be at the tapings today, but hasn't signed a long-term contract or anything like that as of right now. Of course, we get any more details on that, we'll let you know. Chris Statlander is still the AEW TBS champion, retaining the title at the Battle of the Bouts 8 special last night. Chris Statlander defended her TBS championship last night on the 8th Battle of the Bouts special against Willow Nightingale. Just last week on AEW Collision, Nightingale came out to assist Sky Blue following her loss to Chris Statlander. Then, Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite, Statlander indicated she was looking forward to defending her title against Willow Nightingale as she felt she was a worthy challenger. Last night, Nightingale proved Statlander's assessment to be correct as the pair put on a very even match. Nightingale was the first to gain an advantage in the match after the bout spilled out to the floor. However, that advantage didn't last too long. The two soon traded body slams before simultaneously knocking each other down with big boots to the face and then later a double clothesline. Then a running knee dazed Nightingale, briefly giving Statlander the advantage. Statlander began climbing the ropes, but was met there by Nightingale, who delivered a Death Valley driver from the top. Nightingale went for a top rope maneuver of her own, but Statlander caught up to her before she could succeed and gave her a powerbomb. From there, Statlander went to the top rope once again, and this time was successful with a 450 splash for the victory. After the match, Statlander tried shaking hands with Nightingale, but Sky Blue came in to stop it. However, Nightingale shook Statlander's hand anyway, as Sky WWE watched on with a disgusted look. So maybe we could be getting a heel turn from one of them in the near future. An update on Tyson Fury and his WWE status. He says WWE is too hard for him. Tyson Fury has ruled out a potential return to WWE. Speaking with ESPN, the legendary heavyweight boxer admitted that taking bumps inside the squared circle was too physical for him to cope with. Quote, WWE is too hard for me, Fury said. Boxing is much easier than WWE. It's very physical and taxing on the body. WWE getting slammed on the floor and all that sort of stuff. I'd rather move around the ring and dodge punches, end quote. Of course, the Gypsy King has been dodging punches and delivering knockout blows for the better part of 15 years, maintaining an undefeated record in the sport since his debut back in 2008. The charismatic fighter, who grew up a pro wrestling fan, dabbled in WWE several times over the past few years, wrestling Braun Strowman at Crown Jewel in 2019, before making several cameos as Strowman's ally. He would return to the WWE stage at last year's Clash at the Castle event in Wales, knocking out Austin Theory for trying to interfere in the Roman Reigns-Drew McIntyre main event. That night, he would help the defeated McIntyre up and sing a song to close the show with the Scotsman. So Fury says, as of right now, no plans of a WWE return. Now, there's a lot of rumors and discussions last week that maybe Adam Copeland and Ricky Starks, they'd gone off the script, or they'd had a legit back and forth on AEW television on Collision. Now, last week, as I mentioned, Adam Copeland and Ricky Starks had a spontaneous exchange in the ring, including Copeland referring to Starks as a vanilla midget version of The Rock, which some fans thought could have led to a bigger issue between the two. Well, a new report from Fightful Select indicates that sources believe everything is fine between Copeland and Starks, and there have been no reports of backstage heat after their exchange on Collision. It was noted that Copeland often writes his own material, but in that particular moment, he was just trying to, quote, give back what Starks had given to him in terms of the exchange. Prior to Copeland's vanilla midget line, Starks had told Copeland, sadly, you didn't take style from the other place, after Copeland took a shot at Starks' stupid silk slacks. According to Fightful sources familiar with the situation, should the two meet up again in the ring, it will likely have a similar back and forth tone, as there isn't concern of either rising to an unprofessional level. Adam Copeland has reportedly got great reviews among AEW talent and staff during his time in the company thus far. One AEW name did say they probably wouldn't have used the term vanilla midget line in that situation, but at the end of the day, it was just two guys having an off-the-cuff exchange. Therefore, there's no heat, there's no drama, and there's no backstage issue between the two. Speaking of backstage, last night, a top free agent, Sammy Callahan, reportedly was backstage at AEW Collision. After becoming a free agent at the beginning of the month, former Impact World Champion Sammy Callahan was backstage at last night's event. This came from a report from Cassidy Haynes from Bodyslam.net. The Bodyslam.net report suggests that Callahan was there to hold talks for a deal to work both on screen and also in a backstage capacity. Of course, three-time AEW World Champion Jon Moxley has been pushing for AEW to sign Callahan, being former tag team partners as the Switchblade Conspiracy back in CZW. So, do you think Sammy Callahan could end up in AEW? Let me know your thoughts about that too. Finally, The Undertaker is launching a Patreon and a podcast. We've got some details about it. Taker's new Patreon, 6 Feet Under, will feature stories and podcasts from his many years in his iconic wrestling career. Taker's Patreon will feature 3 tiers, with the lowest starting at $5 a month. From The Undertaker, the last 30 years of being on the road as a professional wrestler has led to many stories in and out of the wrestling ring. Mark will be sharing weekly stories that you probably have never heard before and taking you down memory lane with some of his most iconic and epic matches that we all loved. So if you're interested in the world of pro wrestling and getting a behind-the-scenes look into the life of one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, well, grab your shovel and get ready to go 6 feet under with Mark Calloway. There's several tiers. There's the old school tier, which is $5 a month, old school early access tier, which is $6 a month, the streak tier, which is $10 a month, featuring different perks and different things of that nature. So there you go, guys. It's the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.